Hello and welcome to another episode of Swords and Sapphics. I'm Rachel,
I'm Ivy.
and this is a podcast all about queerness, femininity, and it may include sharp objects. But first of all, we're going to do a new segment called What's the Tea? Because Ivy keeps calling me up and she's like, have you heard the latest drama? And I'm like, no, tell me everything.
I'm
She
on
knows
TikTok,
everything.
yo. I'm on TikTok. So most of what I get, I don't go into deep in it. I just don't research it. I'm just getting all the drama I want just for the pure sake of the drama. So from Hollywood, I have one drama, and that's about Florence Pugh and Harry Styles and their new movie, Don't Worry, Darling. And so, again, this is just from what I got. I did no research. I don't know if any of this is true. Apparently, she got paid $700,000 while he got paid $2.5 million. She, Oscar nominee with a bunch of movies and shows, didn't get even half of what he got.
Because Harry Styles is clearly very hard up on the cash right now.
Yes. Yes. Which also, Olivia Wilde is her name?
Yeah.
She directed it, and I believe she was also a producer. I'm not sure. Apparently, there is a rumor that she was really focused on her relationship with Harry, that Florence was the one who basically directed and produced the movie. So she did even like Olivia's work and still didn't get paid even half of what Harry got paid. So she didn't do any promo. Neither Florence or Harry wants to do any like interviews or promo shots. And there are also like suggestions that the studio will put it directly on the streaming services and not theaters. And I just love the drama, y'all.
And just to add, Olivia Wilde has been dating Harry Styles for over a year, I think.
Yeah.
Before the film was in production.
Yeah, because they met on the set, didn't they? Like with the movie.
No, they was already together, I'm sure.
Really?
Yeah. And then again, I suppose if they were doing it during lockdown, maybe they did. But yeah. They've been together a while.
I have a question. Harry Styles, if you're listening to this. Why Olivia Wilde when Florence Pugh right there? Is my question. It's my genuine question.
Not to pit women against each other,
no,
but like
absolutely not.
Florence Pugh needs to be pitted at the very top.
Like Florence fucking Pugh. Like, oh my I mean, yeah.
And and to add to that, very conveniently, just after this drama dropped, Florence Pugh then conveniently posted promo for the film, which she hadn't done prior.
She was quiet for too long and people noticed, and I bet she knew too, because she's one of the like people in public eye that once she gets sort of like she knows there's something going on, she goes on her Instagram and she talks about it and she speaks out about it. And she didn't this time. And I bet anything that she just, because I feel it's true. And that's why she didn't say anything until now. And I'm just, it's a drama, y'all. Then I have another drama from Book Talk. Yeah.
Again,
I know nothing else than what I heard. So everything is illegit and it's all that got to me. There is a writer, Alex something, I believe, Esther. I don't know. Yeah. She wrote Lark something. It's her book that just came out. She got a movie deal, 7 figures movie deal by the creators that did Twilight movies, and before the book was out. So then, though, Victoria Aveyard on her TikTok explained the situation that sometimes the rights for the movies are bought before the book is even out, because it's much cheaper than after it's out. So that's understandable. However, the writer of this book, first of all, she promoted scenes and tropes and lines that weren't in the book, even in the arc, even not in the now official copy. And she neglected to say all her privileges, which is that she comes from a very rich family. I heard someone say like her dad owns a big car dealership in their cities, and he was pushing them like into TV like commercials, and she did maybe some singing or something. I don't know. That's what I heard. That's interesting.
Very.
Yeah.
But I think the most interesting thing, like, I do agree she had a responsibility. She should not have like mispromoted her book by like saying things are in it that are not in it and stuff like that. But like the thing that irks me as an author the most is the fact that like wealthy authors or celebrities get paid so much more, like a ridiculous amount more than new emerging authors. Like most of us are just trying to survive. Our advances are split up. They're not a lot when you get them, especially not when like the fee for the agent is deducted. And then you're just struggling to like live off this career that's not really even a career because you can't make a living on it. And then you go on Twitter and you see that some rich person has even more money and the time to sit and write a book.
That's to me, that's one of the greatest problems that she did. Like the fact that she promoted herself as someone who's struggling and who wrote this book, and apparently she was like querying this book for over 10 years, even though she's in her 20s, and kept being rejected. And the fact like you can do hard work, that's okay, but you still have the fucking safety net that basically no one, at like 90% of people don't have. And the fact that you neglect to say it and then promote yourself a certain way, which also makes other people feel a certain way, is just not okay. And that was her responsibility. And I feel from what I got, she actively chose not to say anything. Only now she went down and said that she was quite privileged to get there.
Yeah.
Also, however, people have been bombing her book with negative reviews. That's not okay. Like if she's not actively problematic and she's not like actively racist and even like passively or homophobic or doing something that hurts people, this is not okay.
Yeah, because they wouldn't do it to someone like James Patterson, who recently said that his opportunities are being taken away by people of color and women and minorities. He actively said that it was on Twitter or in an article
or some article.
He was claiming to be oppressed by inclusivity, which is ridiculous, but you wouldn't do that. But like new authors now, they face this thing where if they're not perfect, which we're not, I'm sure I've said things that are not right. I'm sure that a lot of people, a lot of famous authors have, and I'm sure that a lot of indie authors have as well. But we now face the fact that if we do say something that is wrong, even before we are able to rectify that mistake, our entire work could be like destroyed on Goodreads. Like this culture now, I'm not like against cancel culture, because usually it's just the consequences of what someone has said. But like a new young author whose only mistake was being rich and privileged, well, apart from like misadvertising, is like that's not worth ruining her entire career for. And you know what? You're not doing anything anyway, because if she's already rich, then it won't do a thing.
Yeah. Do I have any? Oh, I have any other. I have more tea. So I have more. There is some church in America, of course, that did a legal production of Hamilton and changed the lyrics to like put Jesus into it, which is just hilarious. The thing is, they cannot sing. they cannot sing. Like, I feel even the one that played King George, he was chewing a gum and forgot the lyrics. But the costumes, they were like from the official production. They were amazing. You cannot listen to it. Also, they put fucking Jesus into it, which just no. But it was funny. And they apparently did also The Greatest Showman illegal production.
This is the greatest Lord. I would love to see it. I'm not gonna pretend that I wouldn't like to see it.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Because in the official lyrics there is a part where they say that there's like the woman you choose to fuck, and naturally they change the lyric. There is a whole dance where like Alexander is cheating on his wife. And it's very like explicit dance choreography. And in this production, they just left the stage and only then come back at the end of the song, which was
they
funny.
Boycotted sex.
Yes. It was amazing.
In their own
very hilarious.
show.
Yeah.
And now they're facing a lawsuit for that.
I don't know.
Did you say?
I hope so.
Okay.
I don't like everybody is wishing for Lynn to go sue them, and I would like to see that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Speaking of illegal productions and someone suing someone, another tea. I feel like everybody by now knows Bridgerton, and there were these two female artists who did an official Bridgerton musical. They released like one song, like 40 seconds, and then they went on to finishing the whole musical of the first season. And apparently, like, Netflix released a statement where they said that they offered them to sign the license for them to be able to get money off of it, and they said no. And then first they did a charity concert, which Netflix was fine. Even Shonda Rhimes and the writer of the books, Julia Quinn, she was like they were very excited about it. They were like supporting them. But then these two girls sold out a whole fucking concert and started making quite a lot of money out of it, which the creators and Netflix didn't naturally like, because it's very like sort of the basic law that everybody knows. And they're getting sued.
I mean, you even have to get a license when you do a primary school production, like.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, they offered them the license. Naturally, yeah, they wouldn't make as much money, but it would be fucking legal. And it's not like they could hide from Netflix. It was huge.
And they were huge. So it wasn't like they were just never gonna meet in the middle. Like, Netflix is huge and they were huge as well.
And they started off on TikTok. So like they keep promoting it on TikTok. It's not like they even try to hide it. And it's just funny to me. And I would not believe that now I would be on the side of the big corporation. And it's not really that I'm on their side, but it kind of makes sense to me that it's very obvious that they shouldn't have done that, and they should have expected this. And it's just funny to me now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy girl. This is what TikTok is doing to my brain, by the way. And I feel that's all the tea I have for now.
Okay. Come back next week for more tea with Ivy.
Ka-ching. That was like the tea squeaking, the cups.
Oh yeah.
But it was like,
or a slurp. I should do it next week. I'm gonna make a cup of tea and slurp it for you.
Please do. Even I will make a cup of tea, and I don't like tea, but this just feels too good. So
don't say
until
that
now,
to a British person.
I know. Until then, I will drink from my bisexual cup, which I got on Pride. Because, by the way, Pride was last week, and it was amazing.
It was. Well, I wasn't there, but it looked amazing.
It was amazing, yes. I was in a newspaper. My photo was in a newspaper, which is funny to me.
Yeah, she's famous.
I know. It's just it, you know. That's all I have. But I also forgot to mention, like, one of the things that I consumed in the very short past is I started listening to a podcast called Dungeons and Daddies. And it's a Dungeons and Dragon podcast about for fathers who lost their kids when they like sort of transfer into a fantasy world. And it's fucking hilarious. I recommend anyone who like are nerds or just enjoy good storytelling, go for it. It's incredibly funny. It's filled with dad jokes, which is something that I love and adore. And the funniest thing to me is that when one of them say dad joke, they get like they heal themselves, but they give damage to the others, which I love. I love this detail. It's very good. It's just very good. It's funny. I was grocery shopping while listening to it, and I just laughed uncontrollably. And I look like a crazy person now, basically, but it's very good.
Beautiful. Yeah. Shall we get to the main point of the episode?
Yes, hour and a half later. Let's do it.
We have been reading the poetess Sappho this week.
Yes.
Okay. Which is where the word sapphic derives from, obviously. But you may not know.
No, I didn't know. I knew this was like I knew the word sapphic before I knew it was about like from Sappho and that she existed and was like did poems. Yeah.
Because funnily enough, female creatives are very largely ignored. We have a whole word for her, and yet we know very little about her. So all of our references today, well, all of my references today are from Stung with Love, Poems and Fragments, the Penguin edition. Let's learn about Sappho.
She lived on Lesbos, which again the word lesbian comes from. Which reading all the preface and the history about her, it was weird to be like reading about lesbians and that being actual people who lived on Lesbos.
Yeah.
And even they use like the word sapphic as adjective to her things and her poetry, which again was very like me with today's language was very weird for me to like wrap my head around.
Yeah. So she was born after 630 BC on Lesbos. Plato honored her as the 10th muse, and she was to inspire the naming of both the sexuality and the poetics. Which, by the way, BC times, mind blown. I don't understand how they existed.
Me neither. And like, again, she lived so long ago. And she is like described as that she was the first poet who wrote poems and poetry about like human nature and feelings and not to gods. And yet I learned about her like in the past few years.
Yeah. Because she was born before like Aristotle, right?
Yeah.
Was it Aristotle?
Yeah.
Which is like when you think of ancient Greek, you think of Aristotle. But she was there before him. Like she really did shape a lot of the poetry. But she's always the last person we talk about when we talk about ancient Greek poets, which is crazy.
And also the fact that like we keep ignoring the fact that ancient Greeks weren't like inclusive to like homosexuality. We keep thinking like in the narrative of they had gay people too and that was fine. It wasn't. Even she had like some poems where she hinted her homosexuality or being attractive to other women, and people were apparently like disgusted and were very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think you see a lot of that in the poems, which we'll get to. Like you can see it's very what I loved the most about reading this is that men are very much just the prop in these poems. Like men have about 2 lines, and then she will go on a tangent about women, and it's like men are there and women are these magical, wonderful things, and I love that so much. And really, that's the crux of sapphicness, sapphicism. Yes. I don't know what it is, yes. But it is like you can see how that like has derived into this just from that. Yeah. But some her poems survive in fragments, so we don't have many full poems from Sappho, and a lot of it's speculation what poems they belong to, which verses they are, and they were made to be sung. They were lyrics. Usually in a group. She was suspected to be like a teacher, an educator of a group of women, and then they would have like a chorus. So a lot of the times it was made for a group to sing, a group of women.
Two facts fascinated me. One, that over like 90% of what she ever like created is lost to us now. So like barely 10% is what we got. And then another, like, they found one fragment in the mummy of a crocodile.
What?
It was like, I feel around like, it was in the book. I would have to find it. One fragment of Sappho, in fact, was recovered from a mummified crocodile.
That's crazy.
I know. Much of this had served as cartonnage, which filled the empty space in coffins or had been weighted up to stuff to insides of mummies. So like her fragment was used to stuff up mummies. Mummified crocodile.
Crazy. Because they were never meant to be immortal. Songs are not meant to be immortal, especially not in that time when there was no recording them. And it's very interesting. Like, that's all we have of her, just fragments.
Yeah.
That were never meant to be saved, really.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? I found a lot of speculation of who she was the lover to. All men, of course, and I found that very interesting, that like this person who lived a long time ago, well before before Christ, like is still being dictated about like who she was with, and is still tried to be defined as the man who she was with. Like, it's interesting. And when you see different students like and researchers, academics, claims about what they believed about her, you see the difference between like a men's view of her and a woman's.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It was like that some men described her as incredibly ugly, but again, that begs the question if he was just jealous to her like sort of success in that sense, or her talent. It's all that like speculative.
I just found that Ovid's Heroides, don't know if that's saying something right, presents Sappho as a reborn heterosexual who self-consciously states that her previous affectations for various females do not compare with her love for Phaon. And it's in like, again, like you see how men's version of her, they can't imagine a world where she wasn't in love with a man, or a man wasn't the center of her universe.
Yeah.
And I also found that when, as you said, like she was supposed to be ugly, there was also like a sense of racism there, in that her ugliness was described as being dark in complexion and rather short, and that was like the only qualities that are described there about what she looked like.
Yeah. But again, there's still like a lot of speculation about this quote, even in particular, and there is like nothing else than this to suggest how she looked like, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah, because like you said, it is like they just wanted to tack this onto her. She's in love with women, but it doesn't matter because she's ugly. Like, I wouldn't want her anyway.
Yes.
That's kind of what it's like. It's very interesting.
especially that like now with like our 21st century mindset, where exactly like you said, everything is recorded and everything is searchable, even like 100 years back. It's just fascinating to me that we know she exists, that we still have like her poetry and her fragments of her poetry, and but we still have no idea how she looked like. We don't even know if she had a child or not. Like she described someone that she had the connection with, but there's still like a lot of speculation about the fact that she even had a child.
And also, it's important to note that she was also an aristocrat, so she wasn't like some completely oppressed woman. She was wealthy. She came from a wealthy family, and she did have like a position of leadership over younger women. That well, as far as we know, that was the case. Like they don't know whether it was a religious like group or just like an education, like she was teaching them music and things like that, because that's what education was back in ancient Greek, or just like kind of a mix. But most of the girls were like, they weren't married yet, they were most likely teenagers. So she didn't only shape like poetry to come, but she shapes a lot of women in that area at that time, which is very interesting.
Yeah. What was interesting to me that in this book, like the author talking about her, they really put these girls, the age was child to unmarried, and that was the age, like to unmarried. That just hit me. Like
yeah.
It was such
Can
a
you
weird
imagine?
thing.
Yeah.
No.
Because unmarried was an age back then. And it was probably around 14.
Yeah.
Like we think that it could be like when you think adolescence and that she had influence over them, you'd think like 18, 19, but realistically, like they could have been around 14, because that's when like women usually start ovulate and menstruate and are able to bear children then.
Yeah.
But then there's also like the take that homosexuality and the homoeroticism of it all was like socially sanctioned, because she wouldn't have been allowed to sing these songs if they were inappropriate to the time, in public at least, which is interesting as well. Like maybe the ancient Greeks were hella gay.
There was something like also that she had to have them sanctioned to be able to go out and sing them.
Yeah. And they say religiously sanctioned, and when we talk about religion at that time, it was the gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
So like there is an underlying sense there that before the Bible and before that, maybe it was more liberating, or maybe it wasn't. Like, but there is a suggestion that it wasn't. If that would have happened after Christ, I can't have seen those poems survive in the way that they did.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
I'm going to talk about the last poem I read, because that one was, I felt like the most one, and it starts with, "In all honesty, I want to die." It's for you, it's on page 25.
Allow me.
And I annotated the hell out of it. What I read the poem before, which starts with, "That fellow strikes me as Godstable," which is like the only instance in that poem where a man is described at all. And it's about a woman talking to a man. So the man is like brushed off pretty quickly, and then she goes on to talk about the way she feels for this woman when she's talking to a man, and it's like jealousy. And she often combines like female sexuality with the idea of war. She uses a lot of references and imagery of war to describe the way that she feels for in general, but for women as well. And then in the next one, she says, "To me you have meant everything, as well as you well know." And I just loved the contrast between like that fellow over there versus "To me you are everything" when she's talking to a woman. Like there is something very intimate about the way she talks about women in comparison to the way she talks about men. And then she talks about, in the same poem, she talks about plucking lush flowers, wed spray after spray in strands, and fasten them around your soft neck, your perfumed head of glossy curls with myrrh. And it reminded me of Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, because there's this scene in Mrs. Dalloway where she experiences attraction to another woman called Sally Seaton, and they pick flowers and then they kiss. And I was like, Virginia Woolf could have so easily took that inspiration from Sappho. Like, I don't know. I'm not that well read, guys. Like, I could be talking absolute shit, and this could have already been proven or not proven. But like, it just made me think of Mrs. Dalloway and that scene. And I love there's something very like intimate and pretty about the way that female sexuality is always like linked to flowers in literature. I don't know. There's just something really lovely about it.
To me, it's like about the pureness to me more so.
Yeah.
It's just the love between women is more often more pure than between like a man and a woman.
Yeah, because she did like often it's a love for a man is described as like burning and passionate, and like destructive almost. But then you see this poem for a woman, and it's flowers are natural, right? They grow without you asking them to. They're just there. The earth gives them to you, and it just makes female sexuality. You
asking them to. Are you kidding me? That was wow. That's something for a fucking tattoo, yo. This is the English degree right here.
I think I accidentally used a quote from Flowers for the Countess, which is my second book.
I was thinking like you're using quote from someone else. I'm like, don't do it. Like, keep that price for yourself. And you even like put yourself out even more. So wonderful.
I know. Anyway.
Yes.
I actually have the quote from Mrs. Dalloway, just in case you're curious. And Sally stopped, picked a flower, kissed her on the lips. And then later in that same extract, Woolf describes the romance as a revelation, the religious feeling. So like it's the same concepts. Like Sappho often combines like eroticism with religion, and Woolf does the same. Like that shows that like this female like lens of sexuality, in that sense, religion is not a restriction, it's a liberation. And that's really interesting because that's obviously not how we see it anymore. And it's probably not how it was then either. But like the idea that religion was never supposed to be something that suppresses, and very interesting.
It is.
I liked this poem. And then I got annoyed because I read that Lynn Wilson observes that the song seems designed to give comfort in a way which would be almost maternal if it did not linger over erotic details, which is fucking bizarre.
Fucking man, honestly.
I don't know if that is a man. I feel like Lynn is a woman's name.
Is it?
Lynn here is a woman's name. Either way, the idea that like the fact that they tried to brush off the eroticism and say that it was maternal is just proof that like people cannot stand the idea of a woman serving as anything other than a mother and a wife to a man.
Yeah.
Like they must be a comfort and they must be a mother. They can't just love and like lust for themselves.
Yeah.
That was very bizarre to me. And like we start with these soft things about like making flowers and putting them in your hair and stuff, and then in the end, then on a bed prepared with fleecy sheets and yielding cushions sated your craving, these girls got it on. Like we went from gentle flower picking to fucking in the bed, and I love that.
Yeah, I know. Good for her. She could get it.
You go, girl.
You go, girl. Hell yeah. Slay.
Okay, so the poem before that I was talking about in comparison, where they describe the fellow as godlike, and then they go on to talk about the feeling that she gets from watching a girl talk to a man. She stutters and her tongue is shattered and flame runs radiating under my skin. And there's like this idea of unrequited love. And I just found it interesting the way that she talks about like the inner feelings of that and how like devastating it can be. And she takes time to describe women. But if you read a man's poem about unrequited love, like I thought of Robert Browning and poets like that who have described women in the poems. They're often very like aggressive, assertive. They focus on the superficial, like the way she looks, her bosom, like her hair, her beautiful hair, like things like that, her lips. But this was all about like the inner turmoil and like taking the time. It was never sexualizing the woman, but it was about the feelings that she felt for her. And that was just very interesting, the way that you can compare those two things.
Yeah.
In conclusion, read Sappho.
Yes.
If you want to see where like sapphicness and the idea of like the queer woman comes from, I would highly recommend reading.
It's really fascinating. Poems. Yeah, not even like the poems. To me, I like reading poems, especially like in the old sort of English, but I don't fully understand the meaning, especially like English being my second language, and I don't understand half of the words. I enjoy them, but I don't like necessarily understand it. However, all the like history and meanings to explain to me was very fascinating to me. Yeah.
And it's important to remember that these were translated from ancient Greek language. So they may not always be accurate, and like it's never going to be completely objective because somebody translated these. And they were not like the original copies. They were not like Sappho's original words and thoughts.
And they even like edit some things to it to make it more sense based on like notes from transcribers, like from history.
Yeah. And that's interesting because she was never like a historical figure that was her own. She was claimed by translators and historians and researchers, and all we know of her is their spin on things.
Yes.
We will never know the truth about Sappho. We will never know what she was really saying and why.
Especially she was singing it, she wasn't writing it and putting it out for people. This is what people got, and someone at some point must have written it down, but it's not from her. That's again one of like most fascinating things to me.
Yeah. And yet she still influenced so much to the point where her name is still talked about now.
Yes.
It was fun diving into something a bit different this week. I felt like I got my English lit student head back on. It was nice. We should maybe read the rest of the poems and see if we have anything more to say.
Absolutely.
But for now, always remember to support women's rights.
And most importantly, support women's wrongs. And there's nothing else but to say, see you later, alligator.
In a world, crocodile.